Hello, Top Fan Rivalry followers. It's time for another episode of Bleeds or Bleeding Blue. Mikey's here, Bill's here. We're just going to talk some Dodger baseball or something like that. Mikey, are we talking Dodger baseball today? What are we doing?
Is there any other kind of baseball?
Like the clip you've seen, is there any other team?
Yeah.
I love it.
I
I
like how
love it.
Danny looked around. He looked around like, I don't see any.
I don't see them.
And
Awesome. So, I shouldn't say couple, one move that the Dodgers made. What do you think about their trade and getting Hernandez?
I like it. I like the Teoscar Hernandez signing. We needed a right-handed bat, and a corner outfielder, and he's I'm not, you know, he's 250s kind of hitter, but he's got some pop. He's 20-25 homers, gonna drive in some runs. Um, yeah, for a team that we're pretty left-handed heavy, so uh, we needed that right-handed bat.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Because I got to thinking about it once we signed him. What are your thoughts about CT3 and then also re-signing Kiki? I mean, that pretty much leaves Kiki's cheese out in the wind, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know a lot of Dodger fans have their soft spot for him, but I don't see a spot for him.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna see Chris Taylor, get some outfield time between left field and Jason Hayward in right, and he can even spell in center if he has to, and then on the infield as well. So I think he's going to be your main off the bench, guy,
Okay.
your main
Yeah,
utility man.
I just I like Kiki enough to say that I'd love to have two guys that like a CT3 and like a Kiki who can come off the bench, who can do things to give players, the everyday players, rest, right? To give the
Yeah,
Jason Haywards a rest, to give Max Muncy, the all-star third baseman, a rest, right? To
yeah.
give Gavin Lux a rest.
See, I think with the Max Muncy rest and things like that, you kind of want a righty lefty off the bench utility kind of guy, and I think Michael Bush, if he doesn't play himself out of it in spring training, is going to be your other bench piece.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's nice to have an option of a lefty off the bench to pinch hit. If someone brings in a righty, they have
Mhm.
to face three hitters, and it's later in the game, and you want to use Bush then it's a perfect time to use them.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I like I like the signing. I wish that I it's hard. I was speaking to somebody the other day on a podcast and we were talking about this, and it's so freaking hard because we resurrect players, CT3, Justin Turner, right? Uh,
Muncie.
Muncy. Like we've resurrected several players in the last couple of years. I just wish that Chris had the ability to play every day, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah. Uh, it's a lot like Kike Hernandez or even Jock Peterson when you gave them a chance to play every day. They just didn't put up the same. They're just not everyday guys. They are pieces, and sadly, Kike had to figure that out by leaving the Dodgers the first time, because he wanted a starting spot and there was nowhere for him to play, and he didn't want to be a bench piece, but he's average at best if you play him every day, and that's at best.
Yeah.
But if you pick spots for him, like against just left-handed pitching or a late defensive replacement, and then he gets a knock late in the game, those kinds of things are more. Same with Chris Taylor. I mean, when he gets every day at bats, he goes through too long of spells of struggling. So
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Taylor's best year was 17. I mean, if you can remember in 17, he was like an everyday player. He was killing it. He led off game 7 of the World Series with that double,
Yeah.
remember? And so Chris is, you know, but
And I,
that's
I
also,
have a soft spot for him too for taking a hometown discount to he said this is where I want to be.
uh-huh,
Um he was one of those guys that was more he knew what was good for him, and he
yeah,
was happy here. Jock Peterson had to learn the hard way. Look at him; he's just a platoon role player, no matter where he goes.
yeah,
He's never been able to can't hit lefties, so you
yeah,
obviously can't have him playing every day.
yeah.
Same with PK struggles against righties. You can't have him play every day. Even though when we got him, if you look at his splits this last season when he came over with us, he hit righties better than lefties. So go figure.
Well, and you look at guys like Cody Bellinger too, right? I mean, Cody still hasn't signed yet. And we're what, 5 weeks away from spring training, and he still hasn't signed yet. And this was a guy that everybody was touting at the beginning of spring training or at the beginning of the offseason. Oh, he's going to get a 5 to 7 year deal, 15 to 20 million a season. He's still a man without a team, and he thought he was going to go to the Yankees where his dad played. And the Yankees traded for Juan Soto and Cody.
Yeah.
So it's just it's insane. The business of baseball is a weird thing. There's still a lot of free agents out there. I announced it last week. Obviously, Blake Snell did sign with TopFanRivalry. Um, the only difference is he has to start 70 games for us and pitch a minimum of 7 innings. Every game that he doesn't pitch 7 innings, he has to pay us his salary. So I
Yeah.
think my money's safe. Um,
Yeah.
but he did, and Cody's reached out to TopFanRivalry. We're not interested in signing Cody. So,
Mm.
it is what it is.
He should go back to the Cubs, if anything. Just.
Well, it doesn't sound like the Cubs are making a lot of offers with him right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he may end up in a place like Kansas City. He'll
Bye.
be, what's that?
Bye.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sour on him. The Dodgers gave him more than enough chances, and
Yeah.
he never really wanted to work on changing up things. And finally he finds a new home, and you hear about all the work he put in the off season before that. And where was that for the Dodgers then?
Yeah.
You got too
Exactly.
comfortable. You got too comfortable, and that's what you got. So
Uh,
I have no soft spot for him. I
yeah.
don't.
Well, you and I both have a friend who has a soft spot for him, but besides for that, I can understand.
More than a soft spot.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this question. The topic of today, let's play a little fun little something something. Okay, the topic for today is let's rate the 1981 and the 1988 Dodgers. And let's talk about who we think was better at which areas and just kind of go through it because I mean, we're not trying to live our glory days here, but both teams were really, really good. So start me off kind of with your thoughts on this.
Well, I think it would be a really good game. I think it would be a pretty low scoring affair. Neither
Hmm.
team, if you look at it, um, were offensive juggernauts. They just weren't.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Kirk Gibson, I mean, won the MVP that year, and he had 25 homers and hit like what 290 or so. I mean, those weren't even great. I don't even know how he honestly really won the MVP to tell you the truth. They weren't those kinds of numbers, but you know, the 81 team you had the infield, you had uh Dusty Baker, um Rick Monday off the bench. I mean, Ken Landro, no one that's really gonna scare you. Um And if you look at the 81 numbers, they're kind of all on the low side for everybody because it was a strike shortened year too. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I just both pitching staffs are phenomenal. If you just probably went top three, you'd have like just say uh Oral Hershiser was otherworldly. Let's just be honest in 88. I mean, uh you're probably gonna win game one with him, but he's gonna be either facing Fernando, Bob Welch, Bert Hooton, or Jerry Royce. And
Mhm.
all those guys were good pitchers. They just knew how to pitch. Um, the 88 team had Oral Hershiser, Tim Belcher, Tim Leary, John Tudor, Fernando Valenzuela.
Mhm.
Another, you know, Tudor we got kind of later in his career. He wasn't the John Tudor of the Cardinals, but he was still solid. Tim Leary had a good year or two for the Dodgers. But on paper, outside of Oral Hershiser, depth wise, I'd have to give it to the 81 team. I think in the long run, 81 would beat 88 in a pretty low scoring, tight World Series.
Yeah. It's interesting because you look at the 81 season and you think both teams, well, you look at the 81 season and or 81 team, and you've got Garvey Lopes, Russell Say, but like you said, you got Baker, you got Pedro Guerrero, you got Ken Lander, you got Steve Yeager. So these guys did a pretty decent job at hitting. Whereas you had the 88 season and you have Kurt Gibson, but nobody really around him
Steve
to protect.
Sachs had a solid year. He had a solid year. But after that, I mean, Mike Marshall wasn't scary. I mean, Greg Brock wasn't scary. Jeff
Franklin
Hamilton,
Stubbs,
yeah,
Mike
Jeff Hamilton
Davis.
didn't scare anyone. I
Yeah,
mean, and he was the Dodgers' third baseman for 2 or 3 years. I don't even know why they gave him so many chances. I mean,
yeah.
he was not good. John Shelby had some nice moments. Mike Sosha, good left-handed hitting catcher, but outside of not scary unless you're Dwight Gooden,
No,
and he
yeah,
you hit a home run off of him. But
yeah, in Shea.
um, yeah, so uh, I just think in the long run, 81 is going to beat 88.
I agree with you. 88 was an anomaly because, like you said, Dave Anderson, Jeff Hamilton, these guys aren't scaring people. Franklin Stubbs, Mike Davis had a really good year with Oakland. I think it was a year or two prior where he
Yeah,
hit
and then a
37 home
disaster
runs.
signing for the Dodgers. Yeah,
Yeah, that
outside
was,
outside of what he did to get Gibson up, that
yep,
work in that walk.
working that walk. And it's funny because when you look at Dodger history and you and I do a lot of lives together, you guys we do a lot of podcasts and we hear some very unique things by very spoiled Dodger fans. 88 was kind of the year of transition for the Dodgers, where they started making signings like Mike Davis, who had a history of playing very well, but either didn't perform or were at the end of their career. Ricky
Yeah,
Henderson, Eric Davis, Darryl Strawberry, like all these guys are great players. Ricky Henderson's a Hall of Famer, but when they finally put on the Dodger blue, it was too late, or they just didn't have good
yeah.
seasons
I
or
mean,
whatever.
yeah. Gee, they signed Al Oliver, and I mean, I didn't, and Mark Belanger, and I'm like, what? These guys are all well past their prime. What are you doing?
Yeah. And John Tudor, it's funny that you mentioned John Tudor because John Tudor was lights out for the Cardinals in the 80s. When the Cardinals won the World Series, and I think it was 87, he pitched in the World Series a few years earlier than that. He was really, really, really good just at the end of his career when he got to the Dodgers.
Yeah,
So
a total pitcher. The guy just knew how to pitch. Didn't throw hard. Changed speeds a lot.
hitting
Wrinkles.
corners.
Yeah, wrinkles in his pitches. I mean, the guy knew how to pitch.
Yep. I agree with you. And it's funny that it's funny that we're talking about this because I think 81's team was the kind of was the team that set the mojo for the Dodgers. Remember, and this is really hard to do. Dodger fans that are listening to this right now, please understand that even though we signed Shohei for 10 years, it doesn't mean we're going to win 10 World Series in a row. Okay. Remember, the Dodgers got there in 77, 78, and 81 with a lot of the same guys, right? And only won one of the three. Remember, the Dodgers got there in 17, 18, and 20 and only won one of the three. I mean, it's Dave Roberts, our manager currently, in his, what is this now? His fourth, seventh season, has been to the World Series three times and won one World Series and been to
But
the playoffs
yeah,
every
and
time.
that's why it's the 2017 is so sad, because we'll never know on a level playing ground
Yeah.
if they would have got. I mean, if you said now, okay, Dave Roberts has won two World Series, you're never you're not talking about firing him. Now you're talking about, geez, just in his 8 or 9 years he's been the Dodgers manager, he's probably going to be a Hall of Fame manager. I
Yeah.
mean, his win percentage is phenomenal. Then you'd say he's got two World Series under his belt, been to three. You know, yeah. So 2017 didn't just cheat the Dodgers. Don't get me wrong. I mean, 2017 cheated a lot of teams
Yeah.
from what the Astros did.
Well, and if you look at it for 10, and we'll go back to 81 and 88 in the second year, but if you look at it, if you look at a 10-year span, so let's say Dave survives the 2024, 25, 26, and 27 seasons, so four more seasons. And if he manages for four more seasons and he wins one more World Series, that means he's been to four World Series in 10 years and won two out of four.
Yeah.
Okay, that, like you said, that's Hall of Fame is now knocking on your door as a manager. Tell me what manager, what organization wouldn't want a manager with a win percentage like that? And it's not the players. It's not always the players. It's a long season. True, the players have to step up in the playoffs. I get it. Like Mookie and Freddie went 1 for 21 this season, this last season. That's not Dave Roberts' fault. But in the dog days of summer, when these guys are tired and they're cranky and they're this and they're that, Dave's holding them together, and they won 100 games. So, which brings me back to our original conversation. Who managed the 77, 78, 81, and 88 teams?
Tommy.
Tommy, which tells you something about Tommy. 11 seasons, gets to the World Series four times, wins two out of the four,
Yeah.
right? So if Dave does that, do you retire Dave's number?
I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. I mean, yeah, I think the trajectory he's on. Um, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if the Dodgers come out and lay an egg like the Padres did this last season, he might get fired. You can't afford to have just a disaster of a year. You
Yeah.
know, you just can't. I'm not saying if they lost in the first round of the playoffs and they had a phenomenal season, regular season, and Freddie and Mookie and Shohei go 1 for 30, then obviously you can't blame Dave.
Mhm.
Um, but the regular season, they have to show out. They have to make the playoffs. And hopefully win some playoff series and get to the World Series. We'll see. It's not easy. I
Yeah.
don't know why everybody thinks it's easy, or makes it sound like we should win every year. There's 30 teams, they all want to win. Uh, Obviously, we know some of them are already out of it. The A's, sorry
Yeah.
A's, sorry
Rockies,
whoever else, but
Nationals.
everybody wants to win. I mean, and
Mhm.
it's not easy. It's just not.
Yeah, and to your point, Mikey, it's just kind of ridiculous what the pressure that they put these people under and in. I mean, it's hard to go all the way. Neither one of you or I at the beginning of the season last year said it's going to be the Rangers and the Diamondbacks in the World Series. Neither one of us thought that. There's no way that nobody could have predicted that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think we were going to win 100 games with all the injuries we had. So if you ask me, I know the not getting knocked out of the first round is heartbreaking, but they won 100 games and won the West. I mean, and you're talking about no Walker Bueller, no Tony Gonsolin. Look what Tony Gonsolin did the year before. I mean, Julio Arias by the after the All-Star break's gone. I mean, just Dustin May, just injury after injury, and you get Sheehan, you get Miller, Pepio, Gavin Stone. They gave chances to, and he didn't take advantage of it. So I think this is a big spring training for him.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys stepped up, and obviously our Mookie and Freddie and Will and Max's average doesn't show it, but his power numbers did. I mean, they put up runs. So, um, yeah, they surprised me by
Oh,
doing
absolutely.
what they did in the regular season.
Absolutely. And Max, if he bats fifth this season, he's going to see a lot of good pitches because I mean, look who's hitting in front of him, right? And they're not going to want to walk him, right?
Mm.
Because what are the odds that the first four guys, if it's Mookie, Freddie, or Mookie Otani, doesn't matter, but Mookie, Freddie, Otani, and Will Smith, I can't foreseeably see us going 0 for 4 to start off a game or
I mean,
anytime.
obviously going to happen sometimes. It's just baseball. It's not
Hmm.
easy to get a hit either, but more often than not, you're going to put a pressure on a pitcher in the first inning right away. You
Yeah.
know, you're going to make them work. So, and that's what you want. They did say, I guess, Shohei feels more comfortable in the two. I think Freddie can pretty much hit anywhere. So and Freddie just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would ruffle any feathers.
Yeah.
Um, and definitely, you're not going to go, let's pitch around Shohei to get to Freddie, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
Um, Same with, you know, you might be a little more careful with Freddie with Will behind him. But then I would say Teoscar Hernandez would hit before Muncy generally.
So you'd have him batting fifth and Muncy batting sixth.
Uh, maybe depending on who's on the hill that day. If it's a righty, maybe you'll bat Max a little bit higher. But yeah, Max, you got to hit better than 200.
Hmm. We still have you still have James Outman to deal with, and you still have your DH to deal with, Jason Hayward, and well, Shohei will DH, but you still have Jason Hayward, James Outman, and Gavin Lux.
Yep. I mean, they're solid. So, hopefully the baseball gods are kind to us. And, we know there's going to be injuries, but just keep them to a minimum and nothing serious.
I totally agree with that, Mikey. So wrap us up with our 81-88 conversation. You think that the 81 team would beat the 88 team. If it's a best out of seven series, how many games does it go?
I think it goes seven. I like it. I mean, I'm looking at them and it's, they're pretty dang close. And neither of them are scary when you look at it. Like the 88 season, I remember it very well. And they won a lot of lower scoring games.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, it would just be really close. I'd go 7. I'd go 7, and I still got to go 81, but I don't know if Oral Hershiser would let 88 lose. So I don't know. It's
Yeah, I'm gonna go 81 because that was kind of the end of that infield dynasty. I'm gonna say 81. I would say it would go 7-2 only for the reason that the 88 team, only for the reason that the 88 team, only for the reason that the 88 team was scrappy. Look what they did to the A's, right? And the A's had won like 300 games that season. Look at what they did to the Mets, who had won like 102 games that season. They were just scrappy. So it
yeah,
goes 7. I would say there might be one blowout in that series, one game that's a blowout, and that would probably be the 81 team blowing out the 88 team. I don't think the 88 team is going to blow out anybody. But again,
yeah,
you know, that's my call, and I'm sticking to it.
yeah. Both awesome teams though. I mean, when you look at the names just in Dodger history, I
Yep.
mean, Dave Stewart on the 81 team didn't, wasn't even Dave Stewart yet, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Steve Howe was a good reliever, but we all know what his
Yeah.
demons were. So, is he alive? He
Steve
died,
Howe.
didn't he? He passed away, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. He passed away. Um, he had some demons that caught up to
Actually, the 88 team had some um deaths too. Not too long after Tim Cruz.
him.
Once he got shipped off to Cleveland, him and I think it was Steve Olin. I think those might have been the two who died, but like 4 or 5 were injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I guess they didn't see a dock or something. They came in at night and plowed
Yep.
into it
Yep.
and killed him. And then Mike Sharperson, who was
Number
a
27.
utility guy for the Dodgers. Yeah,
Yeah.
he passed away as well. So I think he was in a car accident or something. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Mickey
No,
Hatcher
it's
was a nut. Um, they had characters on the '88 team, that's for sure.
they did. Steve Howe. I'm sorry, Steve Sachs. I mean, I
Tracy
still,
Woodson,
yeah,
Jeff Hamilton. Like I said, he looked when you looked when I was in '88. So I was a senior in high school. I looked at Jeff Hamilton. I'm like, that guy should be a ball player. He had the look, the bill, he just had the look of someone who should kill the ball, and he just couldn't figure it out.
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. It's true. It's true. So, um, I agree with you. 88, eh, 88 was a scrappy, ugly team. They were they were kind of the team that the Dodgers were this last year, where it was a scrappy team. Although this year the Dodgers had several stars on it, but the Dodgers had a lot of injuries where they had to scrap through. The
Mm.
88 team had no business being even in the playoffs or the World Series.
No,
So,
and remember Tommy had something to say to Bob Costas about that
yeah,
because Bob Costas was like, "Do you guys think before the World Series even started, do you think you guys even stand a chance? Should you even be here?" And he just lit
he,
into him. And then
he
once
said
they
a few
won,
things to him. He did, yes.
and then after they won, he let Bob Costas know again. So yeah,
Yeah, Bobby Costas. Good luck charm for the Dodgers in 88.
yep,
All right, Mikey. Well, I think we've done this topic pretty good justice, don't you?
yep, I do.
We will be back. Remember, Top Fan Rivalry followers, there's only a few more episodes that are going to be on YouTube, and then it goes into the locker room. So if you're curious what the locker room is, go to topfanrivalry.com. Check it out. Locker room is 58 bucks. Use the code bleeds blue, all capital letters, and you will get a 10% discount on that. So by all means, go into there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mikey and I, especially when the season starts, we are going to, you're seeing kind of a raw, just kind of quiet emotion to all of us, to both of us now. Wait until we start getting some guests in and the season rolls in. Yeah. Put
Yeah,
put a quarter in either one of us and we can talk forever. Pull our string and we can talk forever.
yes, it'll be something.
Yes. So we thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure that you're checking us out on YouTube and you're subscribing. Make sure you go to the locker room, check that out too. We have 3 articles a week that go in. We have 4 podcasts right now, soon to be 10 podcasts a week that'll be going in there. So enjoy
Great content
yourselves.
too. It's just really good content from just, these are professional writers. These are people who love baseball and want to share stuff that they want to share, and they're good at it and they know what they're talking about. So it's good
Yes.
stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Top Fan Rivalry followers, till next week. Bleeding Blue is off until next week. So, Mikey, as always, thank you. And we are out of here.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.